Hello everyone, welcome to my hallucination video. This is one I've been actually holding off a little to film because I wanted to capture everything properly because I experienced a lot of crazy things and it kind of goes in a timeline of how I experienced it, from, being like better to the worst to going better again. So I'm kind of describe my hallucinations in that order and how they first started. So let me kind of just get into it. So a little background before I talk about my hallucinations. So I had that brain surgery on October 11th to remove the new tumor growth. I was doing good, after I was healing, I was feeling like ready to go. And then, I started doing light stretching again. And then my cousin came into town. And that day is when everything changed. And this was almost like 2 weeks after surgery. I already had my staples removed from my head. So I was feeling good. And then suddenly everything took a turn. Now, how it started was, and I have everything listed down, but how it started was I was in the bathroom. There's only one way in and one way out of the bathroom. And suddenly I was stuck. I was by myself, and every time I started reaching towards the handle, I was hitting a wall. And I was like, this is crazy. It was very, confusing, and I was stuck, and I was trying to get out of the bathroom. Every time I reached, the wall was there, and it was like my world was just flipping around me, and I like broke down and like started crying, like I couldn't get out of the bathroom, and it took me just like feeling around to eventually find the handle and go out. So that kind of faded, and I was pretty scared, and I sat down. I remember I texted my fiance, she was at work, and I was in bed and just like lying there like, oh man, what's going on? And then my cousin called and he came to pick me up, and he's there with his wife, and we're driving down the road, and suddenly I'm driving down the road with him. Granted, I'm not driving, but it feels like I'm going up the road, but then the next second it feels like I'm going down the road. And the next second, it feels like I'm riding on the side of the road, like my compass. It was like my north, south, east, west, because flipping on me. It was crazy. Literally, it was like I was the compass just spinning around, and I couldn't find my north, south, east, west. And so slowly things started to get a little worse. And then we go into a wings and pizza place because I'm on the keto diet, so I couldn't eat, anything, but I could eat wings. So I went wings without sugar, of course. So we went there, and I'm talking to my cousins. I'm kind of telling them just a little bit about what happened, not really going into it because I don't know I have a stroke by this time. So, we eat, and then they take me back home. And then my fiance comes, and I tell her what happened, and she said, "Oh man, that's scary." And then suddenly things start getting worse. I'm in the house and I don't know where to go. And my walls keep flipping on me. My field of vision keeps switching on me, literally like I'm in the movie Inception. It's like 1 second, the door's in front of me, then everything like switches around and I'm facing a wall. It was crazy. I didn't know what was going on. And my vision starts breaking down more and more. And literally, I felt like I was entering a horror film because when I looked at my fiance's face, her mouth and her eyes were smudged and pulled on one side. When I looked at my son's face, his face was smudged also. It was like his lips were like sewn shut, and it was terrifying. I had to tell myself, this is not real. This is not real. This is not real. And then I went and I looked at myself in the mirror. And I looked at myself in the mirror. I became terrified because it looked like my left side was blown off with like a shotgun. And this was, went into my fiance's arm and I just started like crying. And because this is when things got real. When I started hallucinating, this was like everything changed. Before it was the surgery, recovering from it, but now I felt like I was going insane, or I felt like I was on a major hallucinogenic drug. And mind you, I've done like mushrooms and stuff plenty. But what I was experiencing now was like nothing. It was like, when you're describing a trip to someone and you're like thinking in your head, imagining it, oh, it must be like the walls are really moving, when they're really not. It's kind of like you're kind of just imagining in your head, and then you look and, it's kind of there. But this, I was actually seeing everything, and it was terrifying. And I was getting worse and worse. My left side was blind. There was nothing on my left side, like there was no connection to it. So like if Jenna would walk out, she would just appear out of nowhere. It was like just someone like walking through, a hole in time and just appearing. And it was terrifying. I remember sitting next to her and like eating, and the thing is, I would forget where I was at this time. It was extremely crazy, and I see Jenna just on my left sitting next to me. I jumped because I was scared. I forgot she was there. And at this time, light started getting trapped in my eye, and my eyes would start burning. And it was like if I was in a room that had any kind of light, and I could not even step outside because the sun was like it was fire. So I had to wear, my big black sunglasses, which I know you saw in some other videos that would go over this, like those blind people sunglasses, because I on my left side at this point, but things got worse and worse. But my left side at this point, I could not see. I mean, I went to the occupational therapist, and she taught me this little thing. I gotta look at it, follow with my eyes till it gets double my finger, and then go this way until I could see it. And I could only go to right here, and I couldn't see it anymore. I could not see my finger. That's how crazy it was. Like everything on this side was gone, and it was like a blur. And then my light, the way I viewed light started to change. It was like the sun was rising and setting in each room I was in. It was like it would go from light, then to dark, then to light again, then to dark again. And I would also get split vision at this time because, so when I first got out of surgery, before I had the stroke, I told the doctor, I was like, it just feels like I have a little disconnection on this side. And he said, yeah, well, you will have a little bit disconnection on that. You may have a, like a slot that's missing, and it may be permanent. So I was like, okay, but he said, but your brain will fill it in. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Your brain kind of fills in stuff. But at that point, my brain was trying to process what it normally saw. So, for example, I would see like Jenna walking towards me, and I would see her in my right side of the vision, but then she would disappear, and then the image would get repeated like back here. So it was like I was seeing something twice. I was looking at something, and then I would see it back here, like behind my head, like I had an eye staring out of my head. And that was crazy. It was like that hood I had on, like the garage door that I described the covering it, which that's kind of what I still feel now when I'm looking at everything in hindsight. I still have that kind of hood over my left side, but it's nothing like it was. My brain kind of filled that up. But at this time, I didn't have that. So it was, well, at this time, it was just madness. It was insanity. So, and I was really seeing this stuff. It was like I had to tell myself it wasn't real. And so I'm seeing images being on the right side and like coming, like I'm staring out the back of my head too, like it's right here. It was crazy. So I'm seeing like two fields of things. And then another thing at this time was, it was like first of all, remember I said I'm in the movie Inception. So it's like everything. The walls are always closing in on me, moving around. The rooms are small, and then they're huge, and it's tiny, and I'm in this massive area. Like but it's all in my house, and I don't know where I'm going in my house. I am completely blind. I'm losing it. I'm hallucinating on a massive level, and these skylights start like appearing. It feels like the sky is like half of the ceiling is like ripped out, and it's like there's a skylight, and then I'll walk to another place and there's a skylight there, and then I'll walk up to the stairs and I'm thinking about going up the stairs, and it's like the stairs move on me, and it's like they're not there anymore, and they're to my left or to my right, and and you know and I would get stuck, and I would just get stuck and start crying wherever I was, because I couldn't find my way. I couldn't find my way out of the bathroom. I couldn't find my way into the kitchen. Couldn't find my way out of the kitchen. And I know this sounds crazy and hard to believe, because it was hard. It was impossible for me to believe at the time. I'm like, imagine everything you know about the world and everything you see is constantly moving and changing on you. And things that you know to be absolutely true, like where the bathroom is, in your house, are not anymore. And this was, it was crushing. And this is still the beginning. It's still, things are getting worse. So I'm getting these skylights, and I'm basically in that fun house. I'm in Inception. It's like my perception keeps changing. I'm getting those repeated images. The proportions and dimensions of things are closing in and opening up on me. It's complete insanity. And so I'm going through this, and my fiance, we go to the emergency room, of course. I'm calling the doctor, and the doctor sends me a prescription of steroids, but he's like, oh, hopefully that'll help. And steroids did nothing. Things kept getting worse. And there was like a red light in my eye that was like pulsing. It was like very strange. Like the light got stuck in there, and it was like really burning. And I finally heard back from the doctor, because it was over after a weekend, and my doctor, he was on vacation. And so my old oncologist wrote back. This is before my neuro-oncologist was in the picture. My neuro-oncologist was on vacation. And this video is going to go long. I'm sorry. It's the hallucination video, so this will probably be one of my longest. But so the doctor says, you got to go to the emergency room. Now, I've been here before. When this happens, it's always scary. But I didn't know what was what anymore. So me and my fiance, we go to the emergency room. And when we go to the emergency room, they go, they do the MRI, and we're just literally sitting there forever, waiting, and it's getting super stressful, and I can't see anything. Lights are switching, coming on, the sun is rising and setting, the high skylights are in, and I'm just in this crazy world of sitting in the hospital bed, and they're just sitting us there, and I'm like waiting. And eventually I get so frustrated, I'm like, I'm gonna sign myself out if you guys don't tell me what's wrong. And they said, well, our person who analyzes this, it's so hard for everything to make sense right now. The person who analyzes this, she wasn't there. She was doing something. And I said, well, I'm going to sign myself out. I want to leave. I'm just going to sit here suffering. I already did the MRI. You're not going to do any kind of surgery without me talking to my neuro-oncologist or anything like that. So they say, okay, they released me. It wasn't until I scheduled the appointment with, my doctor the next day that he looked at my exam and he said, yeah, you had a stroke. So this time I knew what the hallucinations, where they were from. And it wasn't like he said to me that I would get better. The hallucinations, he said some days will be good, some days will be worse. It's going to be like a sliding scale, but you have to take it very easy. You can't get stressed. He said, and your brain will eventually heal. And that's when he told me the thing about the stroke exploding right where the tumor was and killing the residual tumor. So I had some positive news about that, but still I'm hallucinating like crazy. I can't see anywhere. I'm blind. I told him about that, and basically said you just gotta ride the storm. So my sister comes in, my sister Shoshana, and things start going really, really bad. My vision is like cutting in and out. It's getting to places where I'm completely like blind. I'm wearing an eye patch now over my eye. I have a cane that I'm like walking around and like using as a walking stick. But it was just like kind of visual. Then it started to get, or take my whole body kind of over, and I started to get this whirring fan in the left side of my head, like whirring, like over and over and over. And it was like constantly something constantly moving. It was like there was a ceiling fan always in the sky that you're seeing your peripheral, but there wasn't any ceiling fan there. And when my sister was here and the dog started barking when she first came in because they really didn't know her, and I was sitting on the couch and the dog started barking, and the sound became just really loud and really intense. I close my eyes and I feel that red light just burning my head, and then suddenly I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my name. I don't know anything. I am stuck in a war zone of just sound and fury. I curl myself up on the couch and I just start crying and screaming, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Because I didn't know what's going on. I had my eyes closed and there was just this worry. And just this pain, this searing and everything. And in my eyes, it was closing. I couldn't, at this point, even if I closed my eyes, it felt like my left side was always open because there's always a light shining into it. But this light was violent and it was painful and it was just all sound and fury, and just the sound was 10 times louder or 1,000 times. It's just the loudest thing I've ever heard. And I was terrified. I was scared, and I curled up in a ball and I just started crying. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And I remember my sister coming in and holding me, it's all right, Dan, and Jenna coming in and holding me, it's all right, Dan. And this was when things were the worst. And at this time, my vision completely, the hallucinations were there, but my vision completely switched. As opposed to when I was seeing skylights and the world proportioning on me, my vision became a kaleidoscope of color. So I was blind. Now I know, so I don't know if when you're really blind, you just see blackness, things like that. I saw a kaleidoscope of color. I couldn't make a definition of anything. I couldn't define anything. I couldn't see the edge or line of anything. This was terrifying. When I looked at lettering on pages, it looked like Chinese lettering. The words, it looked like hieroglyphics. They were changing. I couldn't even read. It was nuts. I could not even read at this time. And my son, my 5-year-old son, he was with his mother, and then he came back to me, and at this time, and this was really tough because I was really in a bad way, but I wanted to see my son. I had my fiance there help me, and I missed him more than anything, and I needed him there. And he was basically like my little seeing eye dog. He would guide me from room to room, and he was like, it's all right, Daddy. And, I couldn't see on my left side, so he's like, I'm going to teach you a hack, Daddy. It was so cute. And he holds me from behind. He's like, all right, Daddy, because I had about a pinhole of vision that I could see. It was directly in front of me. Everything else was that kaleidoscope of color. So he goes, Daddy, all right, if you want to see out your left side, stand still. So he stood behind me, and because he's short, so he positioned my hips. He's like, stand straight, all right? He's like, you want to see your left-hand side? And he moved me. He goes, okay, Dad, you can see on your left. I said, I can't see on the left now. He's like, that's the hack. So he taught me that, which was adorable. So he was like my little seeing eye dog. And one thing happened at this time that was a little scary, which I didn't like, because my son, he idolizes me, and I love him. I always try to be the best daddy I could be. I had such a charmed life growing up. I always try to give that to my son, even though I don't bring in even close to what my father made. All the situations completely different, but I try to be the best father I can for my son. But uh, I was having, many spot times where I would just freeze because I freeze and I would like lose. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I couldn't even hold my thought, and I would just stop and I'd stare like this. And you see me through these videos, some days I'm better, some days I'm worse. I didn't record these videos during when I was majorly hallucinating because I couldn't. I I've tried to record it like either right after the doctor if I had some kind of clarity, or if I like something, but I couldn't even make sense of what I was doing. I wanted to sit down and talk about it, but it was so crazy. I was insane. I was insane. It was madness. So moving right along. Okay, so things are like this. It's bad. I'm, alternating between my eye patch to block out the left-hand side, but my eye, even though it's closed, it's like light still pouring in. But then suddenly, one day, I wake up and I notice things are a little bit better. I can see a little more. It's like, it's clear. It's not clear, but it's like more stuff is coming into vision. It's like the Chinese lettering when I see like when words look like hieroglyphics, like I can look at them again. And, I'd watched, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, and I watched all 82 games. And at that time, the season was starting. And when I would start to watch it, I couldn't see it, of course. I'd try to follow the ball. It would just give me a headache, and it was the worst. And remind you, at this time, I talked about the ketamine therapies in those videos, but this time I'm having major pain in my head too. I'm having that grinding, like pain right behind my eye. So, and everything is crazy. Here we go. I lose my train of thought again, because I'm still recovering. I'm not there yet. But so things start, okay, so things start slowly improving. I'm starting to see the letters are starting to be clear again. I'm like, oh wait, the game that I'm watching, I can see the ball again moving. I'm starting to slowly remember where the bathroom is and where things are, and and starting to slowly be able to do things like for myself again, like walk around, and this was making me I was feeling good. I was like, okay, this is going behind me. So at this time, oh wait, I almost missed something. So one of the things that I like to explain about, and this is me backing up, when everything was at its really worse, my hallucinations, remember I look in the mirror and I could look like my face is blown off. Something happened that described the madness I was seeing. So there was something that took place that, this is something I always describe. I was standing on our landing. I was waiting for my fiance to come up and get me to help me down. And our dogs were down at the bottom of the stairs. And our big white dog, Gus, was there. And I'm looking down and I see Gus. All right. And suddenly Gus, and this is when, like this, everything's setting and the sun's rising and setting. So like the light's kind of fluctuating on me. It's dark, it's light, but I see Gus right there. And suddenly Gus like fizzles out and fades away. And then Bailey, who's our little black dog, who's not little, it's like a medium-sized dog. I see her walk across, but not walking. I see her head and I see her two legs, and I see a cloud of smoke trailing from behind her, like she's a little train chugging along, and Gus just completely disappears. So this was the worst. So I thought I was absolutely crazy. I remember telling my fiance, if this is how I have to live, I don't want to live this way. I was so depressed. I was miserable at that time. It was terrifying. I had to keep telling myself, this is not real. What you're seeing is imaginary, because you can't look at your son and see his face is smudged in like a horror movie and then jump back and recoil. I couldn't do that. I didn't want to scare him or my fiance. I did scare my fiance before when it first happened, because she would appear right out of me and I would jump. But with my son, I had to pull everything back in. So I had to keep reminding myself, it's not real. It's not real. So when I saw, the Gus thing and the Bailey with him fading and Bailey trailing by, at this point in my head, I knew what I was seeing wasn't real, but it was still crazy to watch. Crazy. So moving forward a little, so again, my eyesight starts getting a little better. My hallucinations, like everything's not fluctuating. It's not like everything's breathing, or I'm at the inception phase, which was incredible. But now I get to a new phase, and I like to describe this phase as the Fight Club phase, because there's a scene in Fight Club where he's showing the films. I don't know if anyone's seen this. I'm sure plenty has. I'm sure some hasn't. But if you haven't, go watch it. It's a great film. But there's one scene that he's talking about when he's working at the film, and how he puts in these slides of pornographic films that will go by and you won't notice they're there, but your subconscious mind will see them, and they will register. And he says you can always know when they're there because there's a cigarette burn there. And it's just like they flash and they disappear. So at this time, my hallucinations changed from all that other stuff to me having flashes of hallucinations of like solid people. For example, my friends came over. I was feeling better. My friends came over and we had a game night. Me and my fiance, my friend, his wife, and her brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my future brother-in-law. We were there and we were playing games, and this was happening, but like I'm sitting there and then suddenly, like a flash, it's like there's just like a kid leaning next to me looking at me. It's not my son, because my son was back with his mother at this time, because we alternate months. And it's like a person just right there, flashes. It's that cigarette burn. It flashes and it disappears. And this is happening a lot. It was like there was a dog that would flash and then disappear next to me. Or, just like it was like just a random scene or a random image or anything would just appear in my field of view and then just disappear. Just like that cigarette burn, So that was crazy. But of course I knew. I could see a lot more, so I was like, okay, it's better than where it was. So I kind of wrote that down, because that was my last of my hallucination phase of just those cigarette burns, of those, just seeing random objects just in my field of view. And then that disappeared as well, and things were back to normal, as normal as it could be. So here I am. I can see again, thankfully. The only thing is it's kind of like when I first came out of surgery again. I know there's that disconnection. I have like that little bit of disconnection, and some days, I'll get more dizzy and more tired, and maybe my eyesight won't be as sharp. But I'm also on, 2 forms of chemotherapy. Well, I'm on a chemotherapy and immunotherapy. So I'm on that. So, that could disorient me a little bit as well. But I am past that hallucination phase, thank God, because that was a nightmare, and that was something. I was insane. It was just crazy, not being able to go around, getting stuck places, getting stuck in a bathroom with only one way in and one way out. It's wild. So it was, it's a horror movie I went through, and I will never want to experience that again. If I ever have to have brain surgery again, or there's any regrowth, things like that, God forbid, I will not move or do anything, because I do not want to have another stroke. But who knows? Like, maybe that stroke was a blessing in disguise, because as the doctor said, it exploded where the tumor was, and looks like it killed the rest of any tumor that was there. But, all right, guys, let me just make sure I got everything. Yep. All right, well, thank you all so much again for listening. This is a crazy time for me. I'm still going through it, of course. I'm still on chemo. I'm trying to get better. I'm working out again, like slowly getting into things. And I'll do another video about my workout program and how I got back into that. But life's a million times better than what it was. But I'm glad I could share everything I went through that crazy time period. But I'm so happy I'm through it. I never want to witness it again. But, you know, I had to fight. And you, every day, something comes in your way that you have to overcome. You fight. You fight for it. You fight to be successful. You fight to be healthy. You fight to be happy. You fight to be loved. And you fight to succeed. And finally, you fight to live. All right, guys, keep the fight. Danny Efron out.